welcome to all. So my invitation, my name's Laura Garrison Brooke, and I'm so happy to have you here. So as people are adding in, wonderful. Hannah's here, lovely. Oh my goodness. So many people. I mean, it's like, Amelia, is there anyone you don't know in this call yet? There might be just a couple, right? Hannah, thank you so much. I just invited Hannah, I think like practically today, or maybe it was yesterday. Thanks for making time. So, welcome to all. And my invitation to you, again, my name is Laura Garrison Brooke. I'm your host. I'm the CEO of the Positive Education Consortium. I'm so glad you're here. And I invite you to chime into the chat because while, some of us know a lot of you, we'd really love for you to share, your name, where you're from, and what drew you to spending some of your precious time with us on this conversation. So please do share that and let us know again, your name, where you're from, and what drew you to spending some time with us. And as you start chiming into the chat, I am going to just give a little bit of background to give you a sense of, what the Positive Education Consortium is, because while a lot of us know each other, and some of us maybe only know a person or two, and we're so glad you're here, you might not be tremendously familiar with the Positive Education Consortium. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background, and then I'll pass the baton on to our speakers. So again, my name is Laura Garrison Brooke. I'm the CEO of the PosEd Consortium. I'm one of its founders. And it has been such a fun journey being part of this amazing nonprofit organization. And this organization, oh, wonderful. We have people continuing to come into the space. So glad to have you here. So the Positive Education Consortium actually came directly out of the World Positive Education Accelerator. And some of you were at WPEA, which was hosted by IPEN, and I'm extremely excited to say that we have the brand new CEO of IPEN in the house. She just jumped in, Dana Fulwala-Volk. Dana, congratulations. Oh my goodness. So WPEA in 2018 had something called, IPEN, the International Positive Education Network, hosted this conference called the World Positive Education Accelerator. And a few of us were there. And after WPEA was over, and that was the very first time I had a chance to meet Amelia. And it was the first time I had a chance to meet Roy, who is a fellow director of the PosEd Consortium. And it was my first time meeting Marty Seligman, who is obviously the founder of the field. And after we wrapped up our time in Dallas, sweating together at that incredibly amazing and hot conference, we continued the conversation because, there was a group of us who were just like, wow, there's a lot to accomplish here with positive education. Let's keep talking. So we did that for about a year through the facilitation of someone from Champlain College, because David Cooper-Ryder was also at that conference, the founder of Appreciative Inquiry. And after that year was over, the Champlain College facilitator, Jessica, I don't know if her name was Black, Sandy. Jessica, I've forgotten exactly what her name was. She says, I think we're done. And I said, oh, no, please. There's more conversation to be had. Is it okay if I take over facilitating the group? And she very generously said, absolutely, have at it. So the conversation continued. And then in 2020, we got really geared up to help support people, navigate COVID. And we're still just kind of soldiering on, just as a amalgamation of individuals. And then in 2021, Sandy reached out to me and she said, hey, Marty's coming to Russell Sage College for a conversation. And I think you should come up so that we can spend some time with him. And huge fan. I'm like, I'm on it. So Sandy Brower, who's one of my colleagues and co-founder of the Positive Education Consortium, And Anita, who is also active, and I were at Russell Sage. And Marty very generously sat down and spent some good time talking to us. And I think it was really Anita who's like, look, we're doing our best, but this is hard. Could you please help us? And Marty generously said, yeah, let's have some conversation. And at that time, he had just published the Hope Circuit. So he said, let's get together. Let's kind of have a conversation around the Hope Circuit and talk about Pos Ed. So we did that a few months later. And he shared that he's like, look, to help raise up traction, you need to talk to the students. It's really the student voice that is the most powerful. So we had an amazing dialogue with, some of you were on that call. And after the call was over, Sandy and I were lit up and we got together on the phone and we're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And Sandy says, Laura, we've got to create a nonprofit organization. So the Pos Ed Consortium was Sandy's idea, inspired by Marty as our muse, but she's the one who was like, we got to make this happen. So we did. We created this amazing group, this nonprofit, and we've put student voice as being really central, based on Marty's advice, his inspiration. So we've captured some student stories, some videos, and there's still a lot to do. We also come together to share best practice conversations. And here we are having this first of 6 conversations, these curious, interactive conversations where we are looking to talk about, there's so much still to be done, right? And forgive me for those of you who are just adding in. I'm so sorry that I've left some of you in the waiting room while I've been talking. So my apologies. So here we are. And, I pivoting now to this focus. That's the background of the Pos Ed Consortium. Thank you for letting me share some of our history. And this series of conversations is going to be focused on facilitating courageous, curious, and co-creative conversations. Because the feeling is that at this moment in education, there's a call and a need for honesty, bravery, and collective wisdom. Um, for those of you who are in the educational space, you know that we are navigating unprecedented demands, shifting student needs and systems under strain, signals that the approaches that once served us well in the classrooms need to evolve. And that feels like a really tall order. But luckily, we have some amazing thought leaders gathered who are working on pioneering approaches that will help address this need. So I'm very happy to pass the baton to fellow Pos Ed Consortium founder and secretary, Sandy Brower, to share more. So Sandy,
Awesome.
passing it on to you.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you for that beautiful introduction to the Positive Education Consortium and the work that we are doing here. I myself, I retired about a year and a half ago from K-12 education with the intention of focusing a little bit more deliberately on helping to build up flourishing schools. And by doing that, we definitely want to have positive education as our foundation because it is that's where we ground ourselves in research, particularly through the PERMA-V framework for well-being. And with that very quick intro, I want to also give my co-facilitators and friends the opportunity to introduce themselves, Kelly and Amelia.
Hey everyone, my name is Kelly Smith. I am coming up on my 40th year in education. I had a long career in public education, pre-K to 12, 33 and a half years doing that work as a teacher, a building level administrator, and then a district level administrator. I retired at the ripe age of 55 for 2 glorious weeks. And then I started at Russell Sage College, and I've been there 7 years. I'm the department chair for professional education programs. I teach in childhood ed, special education, early childhood ed and literacy programs at the graduate and undergraduate level. And I am a proud and happy positive edder, a member of the consortium, a product of Amelia's wisdom, and benefactor of all things good about positive ed. On a personal note, I'm also a recent breast cancer survivor, and I credit Amelia's good work and training that I had in making it a really difficult, but an experience that I grew in a very positive and wonderful way from. And I look forward to spending many healthy years teaching teachers about positive ed and sending them out into the world with a new skill set that is desperately needed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Laura. It's Kelly, just celebrating your resilience, because it's one thing to know the skills, it's another thing to put them into practice. So proud of you and so great to see you flourishing in the world. Hello, everyone. So great to be with you. My name is Amelia Zhivatovskaya. I'm the CEO and founder of the Flourishing Center and the creator of the Center for Positive Education. I too have been involved in this field for a long time. I'm going on 20 years in the field of positive psychology. I did my master's in applied positive psychology in 2006. So we're going on our 20th year anniversary, which is really exciting. And yeah, I've dedicated the past 20 years of my life to sharing these skills with the world through my own life adversities and challenges that life brought me. I just was so blessed that I discovered positive psychology, and all the while kept saying, why weren't we taught this in school? And for the past 20 years, I've trained thousands of practitioners. And a lot of the conversation usually starts with why weren't we taught this in school? Why weren't we exposed to these skills earlier in life? And what would life be like if we were exposed to them sooner? Which is what led to the creating of the Certificate in Positive Education program, where we now have hundreds of teachers around the world who are trained in this modality. We have trainers on the line who are certified positive educator trainers from the Center for Positive Education. We've created incredible partnerships with schools like Hannah's, who's on the line, with Ridley and Libby's school, and also with Russell Sage College and many other schools. And it's just an honor to try to make a dent in this or try to slow down this rolling ball that seems to pick up speed with all of the changes going on in the world, and just to do our best to support teachers and students. And I feel so honored to be so honored to be on this call and to be of service in any way that we can in the time that we have. And just my hats off to all of you who are on the line, because you are here because you believe that the future of education is we're in this pivotal time where we have an opportunity to make a change, and we're all dedicated to doing so. So really just feel so honored to be a part of this conversation with you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly
and Sandy, if you don't mind, I'd love to make a shout out to Chris, who joined us. We've got iPen is in the house. So Chris, we were loving on iPen. We've congratulated Dana. Well done, Chris, for choosing such an amazing candidate. Again, for those of you who maybe added in a little bit late, Dana is brand new as the new CEO for the International Positive Education Network, and Chris serves as a volunteer to that group. So Chris, well done. And we're glad you're here.
Thank you, Laura, and very excited for Dana. So I'm glad she's here as well.
For sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And welcome, everybody. So happy to see you. I guess I did neglect to say that, yes, I have a certification in applied positive psychology with Amelia. And I also am a certified positive educator and trainer. And what brought me to finding her was the difficulties I saw in the school that the children were having, and felt that we needed to find something different and better for them. And through a Google search of how can I make things better in schools, found Amelia and the Flourishing Center. So it's been a joy to have been with her since 2016. So with no further ado, I am going to read you a opening statement that kind of focuses a little bit on what we want to talk about here in this session. And I'm going to read it because we co-created it, and it says so far more eloquently than I can riff it off the top of my head. So here we go. So in an effort to address rising teacher burnout rates and changing student needs, educators must come together to create conditions that allow themselves and their students to flourish in the world. Naming these realities takes courage, collective minds, and platforms that facilitate vulnerability and honest discourse. Of course, we recognize that a meaningful shift is possible, one that recenters well-being and teaching and learning that support human flourishing. Simultaneously, it allows us to strengthen academic rigor, increase motivation, and foster resilience in ourselves and in our students. Preparing students to be good humans, not just strong test takers, builds on deep care, skill, and commitment by educators already bringing to this work while inviting a brave imagining of practice, mindset, and priorities. We also recognize that change can feel unsettling and uncertainty is a natural response. But growth often emerges through shared exploration rather than certainty. So this conversation invites us to lean into that bravery together, to question, to explore, and co-create a more sustainable, human-centered future for education. And with that, I would like to kind of open things up to anybody. Is there anything bubbling up for you that I mentioned here or that any of us has mentioned here? Do you have any wonderings about anything that we said? If so, please feel free, to raise your hand or put something in the chat. The whole thing, our whole idea here is to bring your voices in as well. Okay, no, not yet. Oh, Carol says, I am.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was about to read that in the chat. You were there, Sandy.
Yes. I am curious as to how to integrate these ideas into existing programs. And I'm going to invite my co-facilitators to offer any thoughts that they might have.
I can kind of expand. So I'm not a positive education certified program. I'm part of the group. I was adopted by Laura and Sandy, and I work in K-12 and in higher ed. But I feel like I love everything, but the response from organizations is we can't add one more thing. So I've been trying to figure out how to take the principles and integrate them into things, courses or programs that already exist. And I would wonder, Amelia, how you take, how would someone like me use your big ideas and practical strategies in existing programs so that it doesn't seem like another thing for someone to do?
Yeah, thank you so much, Carol. I felt like Kelly had something. So Kelly, do you want to start first because you had unmuted?
Sure. I mean, I can talk a little bit about how I entered into the world of positive education and positive psychology. And I think that might make some connections for you, Carol. I want to start by saying, well, no, I don't want to start by saying that. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about some things I've seen over the years. Alexa just decided to talk to me, by the way, in the background. At any rate, as an instructional coach and as a building leader and an administrator, I saw many, many classrooms that worked and were highly effective, very efficient. Kids loved being there. They were full of joy. Attendance rates were higher. There was a sense of community when you walked in the room. People knew what the expectations were. They wanted to please others. They wanted to get along. They had a genuine sense of belonging, a meaning and purpose. And I didn't know it at the time. I wasn't connecting those dots. I just knew that teacher had something. And it was consistent year after year after year. I started to connect the dots when I took Pause Ed. I started to see that these connections were not accidental, that these dots connected in a really meaningful way. And I'm going to unplug my Alexa. Can you guys hear that in the background? Can't believe it. It has never
Sounds
done
like
that
she
before.
wants to she wants to chime in. She wants to give you a
chime
piece
in.
of her mind.
She's quiet now. Alexa, off. I think she
Anyone
went back.
worries whether or not AI is going to replace teachers, Alexa reminds us that they're never going to get as smart as we want them to be.
She had so much to say. It was incredible. She has not, I've taught here a million times from this exact spot. She's never said anything. At any rate, started to see these trends in classrooms, couldn't piece them together, but knew these teachers just had this secret sauce, right? This magic. And I started to see like relationships were centered and talking about emotions. And I'll never forget, I went in to observe a teacher. She was teaching math. And she said, I'm sorry, I have to cancel my observation. Amaru got in a fight on the playground and we have to have a class meeting because everyone has different feelings about this. And Amaru needs to understand that he's part of our classroom family and other people are sad about him getting in a fight on the playground. And I was like, you don't need to schedule your observation with me. Go right ahead. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. So things like that happened over my career, awakenings, if you will. And I got to higher ed, and there was no talk of it, no discussion of anything having to do with positive ed, building relationships, belonging, a sense of meaning. A few people were making whisperings in the corner. Then we had a Thrive initiative that started to knock on the door. And I knew this was the answer, but I didn't know how to embed it, right? I guess I have a twofold answer to this. It isn't another thing. It's best practices in teaching. It's living as a positive educator. It's living the PERMA V model. And it's modeling that for students. And it's just making time to authentically be able to react to situations in a teaching moment, right? So I go back to Amaru. When that teacher knew the heck with math, we need to talk about how this affected us as a community. That was a skill that probably a lot of those kids are bringing forward today, right? These are lifelong skills they will never, ever lose. And if we go back to our training and Maslow and foundational understandings and foundational needs being met, I think that is what positive ed is. We can't move forward and grow without as humans without these skills. So why aren't teachers teaching them? They don't know how, probably. They're afraid, probably, right? That's a lot of it. They don't have time. There's a lot of good reasons. But when we make it accessible for them, I think the tide will shift. I think we have a real opportunity to change humanity with this work, not just classrooms, but humanity. So it wasn't a direct answer, Carol, but I don't think it's an extra. I think it's learning the practices and the principles, embedding them in your own life, and then every opportunity that you have to utilize those skills, you can utilize those skills. I mean, my breast cancer was a teaching moment. I had to put my money where my mouth was, right? I had to say, I'm either going to bounce back better, right, Amelia? Or this is really going to be taxing and it's really going to have a negative, I'm going to have a negative outcome. So.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And I'll build on that to hopefully answer your question as well, Carol, to say that almost all of our certified positive educators are integrators. They're all usually weaving positive psychology into what they are doing. There are a handful of them who have gotten these unique roles. Libby is one of them, where she actually teaches a well-being class for her students. right, Libby? Like this is actually a course that is available to them, or maybe look on your face makes me say no, and you're actually
I'm
an integrator.
not.
Not,
I
you're not.
wish
You're
I
one of the ones
were.
integrating.
Maybe
But
Hannah.
you're one of the ones. Yes. Well, you're one of the ones then that's weaving. So we do
Yes.
have a handful. Yeah, we have a handful of positive educators who replace what used to be a physical education class with a more holistic education of well-being and become well-being classes. We have schools where teachers are actually able to create a whole class on positive education and positive psychology, but almost everybody else is weaving it into how they teach math, weaving character development into how they talk about history, but most importantly, being able to support the students with the real life examples of life that they're experiencing, because we're not just educating students, we're shaping humans. And that education is not just about what we teach people. It's the teaching profession is not the technicality of getting information into children's minds. It's an emotional experience. It's a relational one. It's a deeply human one. And so most of what our positive educators are doing is they're sprinkling and they're weaving, because they have this understanding of positive psychology. They know about the importance of belonging. They know that if a child doesn't feel safe, if they can't downregulate their nervous system, their brain is not learning ready. And why try to speak to a group of dysregulated students? And so they know how to work with the energy that's in a classroom. They feel these skills and tools are available to them, and they are largely weaving. And most importantly, they're bringing this into their own life and how they support themselves, because you can't give from an empty cup. And if anything, I always say that like we are very sneaky at the Center for Positive Education, because we would love for every teacher to do a positive education training for themselves. And it is very hard to get them to want to do this for themselves. This is one of the most selfless professions out there. These are people who give and they give and they give. And we have a culture that has burnt them out, not for their own fault. It's a design flaw of the system that it rewards burnout. And so they're so used to this culture of burnout. Doing something for themselves is like hard for them to do. But when we tell them you're going to help your students be more resilient, you're going to help your students have greater well-being, you're going to help set them up for success more, they sign up. And then what they tell us was, oh my God, I didn't know how much I needed this for myself. Like they feel so grateful that they're finally in a community of other educators who are able to support one another. They're so happy and grateful that they're learning these skills and they're able to bring it into their parenting and into their relationships and have that resilient skills, as Kelly said, to handle whatever comes their way, because life inevitably hands us things to work with. And so I think fundamentally what we're doing is that we're giving the teachers and the educators the other half of a skill set that they were never equipped with, because they were so taught the how do we teach and educate without having the skills and tools to honor the whole being of the child, or piecemealed, or they're just, again, lots of great educators that figured it out on their own. And as Kelly said, they were the bright spots of the educators. They were the teachers that you hoped your kids would get as their teacher. All kids have that. They talk amongst each other. They go, Mom, I hope I get this teacher this year, right? It's like, who are those teachers? They're probably the ones who are intuitively using positive psychology without it ever having had been taught to them. But it's so relieving to have those skills. And in our programs, we try to not reinvent the wheel. There are so many incredible tools out there. We work in partnership with the Go Zen organization, because they make very simple, beautiful, engaging animated videos where the teachers can just pull up a video, download a set of worksheets, print out those things, and just have a toolkit in their deck when they need. Whereas before, here's a child who is struggling with their mindset, and they know that it's in here, but they didn't know, how do I actually reach this child? How do I work with them? So a long-winded answer. Excited to hear from Roy as well. I hope that piggybacked on what Kelly said, but what I was just trying to say, Carol, is what you are doing is exactly what we hope people will do, and that they will not see this as yet another thing, that they need to do as educators, but instead that they feel equipped with a new thread and needle that they can weave in and out and tie things together.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Roy, apologies, Sandy, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Apologies. Roy, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. I know your hand is up, and I know you're also an amazingly patient man. So before we move on to Roy, I would love, because Amelia, you gave such a beautiful frame for the hard work that Ridley is doing, Ridley College. Dr. Hannah Kidd is with us. And Hannah already talked about some of the positive education class, the elective that she has in her senior year. But also something that's really inspiring for Ridley is that they are working through diligently all of their staff, all of their teachers go through the positive education certificate, which is offered through the Flourishing Center. And Hannah, I would just love for you to chime in, because you're boots on the ground doing this work. And I think that, we'd love to hear your voice about how it's landing.
Sure. Thanks. I guess we have been on this journey as a school since 2013, and everything that we did in terms of building our capacity as an organization that fully adopts positive psychology. I will say that the training that has had the most impact has been the positive education certificate. So I started teaching the teachers I think we did our leadership team 2018-19, and then we've gone from there. And again, each year, the model that we've done is between 20 and 40 people, a cohort of about 20. And we've taken a half a day per month. So these teachers are released from their classes and they've done the pre-work of watching. It's the flipped classroom model. So Amelia's got all these fantastic videos. And then we come together for this half day retreat style. And again, the messaging is that these are tools to apply to your own life. Initially people would be sort of sheepishly saying like, oh my goodness, I've just been noticing so much of a difference when I do this with my children. I hope that's okay. Like, that's okay. Yes. And then we hope that the knock-on effect is that it shows up at school. And it has. And to this day, I will say we have a few, people, self-identified curmudgeons who have said that this has been their favorite and most effective professional development. Because what I've started to do is introduce reunions. So I'm bringing back the cohorts this year. Everyone gets like their half-day reunion. And so people revisiting the circles and revisiting time with each other. Yeah, it's been really effective. And again, it just as an educator for my whole career, it feels so good to sort of see the impact it has had on people's personal lives. Thanks for that, Laura. Shall we go over to Roy?
Pleasure. Yes, Roy, wonderful Roy, positive peace ambassador.
Yes.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. Very, very briefly, and I'm really delighted we've finally got this group together. I was there in Fort Worth back in the day, and I'm just going to pose a question. I've got a couple of colleagues with me here from the UK, and it's 25 to 11 here in the UK, and we should be eating Tim Jams and drinking hot chocolate and doing things that British people do. But I've got Nikki here, who's one of our team, and also Vitalis, who's one of our students at the university in Derby, who is being trained up in POS Ed, but through our methodology, which is theatre-based and story-based, all the same stuff. And I'd be interested because we're currently in talks with the Welsh Assembly government because they have a curriculum, and we met up with them to explore and implement peace education, which is under the umbrella of PERMA. And they've asked us to put a pilot together based upon our work of introducing POS Ed through peak circles. And we've had a massive impact on some of our schools in some of the toughest areas of the UK by introducing across the whole school check-in circles on a Monday, check up in a Wednesday, check out on a Friday. And what they said is there is an issue and I'd be interested in your thoughts. And Nikki, please do jump in on this. We have a real issue here in the UK, and I'm listening to all of the impact that you're putting in within your own schools. But in terms of formal teacher training, we are finding a huge dropout and retention of students who have been trained for a classroom practice without being armed with these core skills. And basically, where they turn up and their teacher training bears very little resemblance to what they actually need within an environment. And we at Nikki, myself, and others are putting together a proposal for teacher training rooted in positive psychology, positive education. And I'd just be interested in how you are formally training your incoming teachers so they don't have to hit a wall, be destroyed, and then be rebuilt again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just interested how you're doing that in the States. Nikki, if you have anything to add to this, because Nikki's still an in-class leader in schools. Nikki.
While Nikki's trying to find her unmute button, I could see it in her eyes. So I'll just jump in to say that, like, what comes up for me, and I hear you say this, Roy, is that first, the power of the check-in. You have my huge support behind that. And we run 9-month training programs for adult learners to keep adults showing up twice a week, every week for 9 months and actually want to be there is not an easy feat. And the magic is in the check-in. And it's woven into the PEC program. And it is how the social glue gets created. So I very much support that when we give people check-ins, it's like bringing them back to their primitive roots of being in connection, hearing each other. And that's incredibly important. And as Hannah said, and I'll let her share, but one of the strengths of what the organization was doing is that it took time for them to hit a critical mass. There's a really fantastic TEDx or TED Talk, which is called "How to Start a Movement in Under 3 Minutes."
Oh, yeah.
And the dance, right? And so it starts with the lone nut who's like standing there dancing. And then it takes one person to join the lone nut. And now the lone nut is a leader because now someone has joined them. And then you hit this critical mass that now if you stay out and you're not up there dancing, you're going to be the weird one. So Hannah, through all of her hard work and all the incredible energy that Ridley has put in, and again, other schools here, they've hit that critical mass that now, what do you mean you haven't done the positive education program yet? Right? Like there came a point where people were saying, hey, wait, when do I do it? Everyone else has done it. Why don't I do it? And what they do beautifully, and I'll pass it over to her, is new teachers are always being trained as they come in, but the reunion, the keeping them going, because most teachers feel that the things that they learn are one and done, and it is normal to forget, and it's normal to have that disconnect. And so when it starts to be reinforced from every angle, this is how they have started a movement, this is how we start movements, and that just takes time to hit that critical mass.
Yeah. And I think Nikki's now unmuted, fortunately. But it's the fact that it's the burden on the schools to kind of unpick the trauma of very bad teacher practice. And that just baffles me, Nikki.
I'm going to apologise in advance because every time I speak, the dog joins in. So if it's not Alexa, it's now going to be Ralphie. Sorry. And I've also got to a point in my brain, couldn't even work out how to unmute my phone. So really apologies for that. I think we're also in the UK. We've got lots of turbulence in education as well. Lots of people who are looking outwardly and listening to the big voices and big change being proposed. There is so much rigidity within the confines for them, certainly for your mainstream schools in education here. I'm in a new space for me in that I'm in an independent school. It's a special educational needs school, SEMH and autism, but we're in an independent school, and we have a beautiful flexibility around curriculum that I've never experienced in my 25 years in mainstream. And so finally, this shift has enabled me to embrace my values. I'm working with Roy and drip feeding. I think, as you said before, that drip feeding in and just gently shifting curriculum. I have, as a deputy in the school, I have that opportunity, and so for me, I think the more we try it and we drip feed it in culturally within our school, with we're using mindful Mondays, wellbeing Wednesdays, and feedback Fridays. It's all an iteration of the same values, I think, to hopefully shift and show the impact. Positive psychology, peace education, whichever iteration of title we use, that the values led behind it are critical for education. But I do think we've got almost different levels of different generations of teachers. Not as many. Yeah, I appreciate I'm getting to the other end of my career, and there are fewer and fewer of us. But I equally recognise when I started in my career, there were a lot more people with the wisdom of the grey hair that I now carry, that perhaps have no longer stayed in the profession or left the profession within the last 5 years post-COVID, and we've lost their wisdom, we've lost their presence and their unofficial mentoring. Everything's been replaced by you will be mentored by this person. Everything's become process and not humanist. I think that's one of our challenges.
Yeah, thank you for that, Nikki.
No, I can't remember how to unmute. How to mute again.
I can mute you. It's all good. No sweat. Hello to Rocky the dog, or whatever your dog's name was. He was very good. He was very well behaved. So I'm not sure if Carol's still here, but just I did mention in the chat that Carol's inspiration. Carol just came on video. So Carol's inspiration is helping connect legacy teachers, teachers who are coming to the end of their time with teachers who are entering in. So Carol, I would love for you to chime in, but also I wanted to call out someone who is currently off camera. Kim, I don't know if you're in a place where you can add your voice in, because Kim is, as I mentioned, a thought leader and very active in multi-tiered systems of support, and also PBIS. And Kim, forgive me and please correct me, but from the conversations I've had with you and from what I know of MTSS, is very often the students who soak up like 80% of the time of teachers, are only about 20% of the students. So, creating this process, and Roy has some really inspiring stories as well about bringing this positive peace, positive education into schools and turning around classrooms that used to be rife with disciplinary issues. And all of a sudden, teachers are freed up to spend their energy in ways that is more giving and focused across the classroom broadly, versus dealing with like a limited number of students who are being disruptive. So Carol, Kim, Roy, I'd love for you all to chime in with any stories to share.
Thank you. Nikki, I love what you had to say about the wisdom of the late career educators. I'm in that category for sure, and have been doing this work for many decades. I appreciated what Sandy and Amelia and Kelly have said about how we can integrate and not all have to be doing things in a separate box, although I appreciate the well-being. So the book that I just published is called Be a Legacy Teacher, and I coined it myself because I think all of us in late career are legacies, and we're losing it, especially around this topic that we've all just started to grasp, and keeping purpose in the game. And part of the purpose of what I get and show up every week with Sandy and Laura and this group is a sense of purpose that we're actually contributing because it touches me as a human being. So I heard that word in your description, Sandy, and Kelly has mentioned it, and Amelia and Laura, Like we're human beings, and yet in our schools, pre-K through 12 and higher ed, where this positive psychology hits me is the human part. It's like that we have these feelings. So Nikki, I'd love to follow up with you on Be a Legacy Teacher. I'll get your email and I'll write to you. I'll share. And I defer, yeah, Kim, chime in.
I think Kim's not accessible
She's
here.
not
Sorry.
able
Here
to.
she goes. Here she goes.
The,
Live
the
Kim.
one thing,
Go, Kim. Go, Kim.
Kim, we don't hear you.
No, I think we have some sound issues there.
okay. Can you hear
There
me?
you are.
Can you hear me
Now
now?
we can hear you, Kim.
Okay,
Go ahead.
sorry. So the one thing I'd share just briefly, I just left the site just recently. Their data showed that they have a reduction in office discipline referrals in their first semester of the school year. And I'm working with a school team, and it's clear their data sources show that the behavior has improved for students. They did things to bring that about. They used positive behavior support strategies to bring that about. And yet I could not get the group to celebrate. They could not own and internalize their own successes. And I belabored the point with them for 20 minutes because I was not going to leave this point alone. I brought their attention to the fact, I said, I'm looking at faces and I'm wondering why there aren't more smiles in the room. You did things. The things worked. Students are behaving better. What's wrong? And they could not stop focusing on what was wrong instead of what was right, even to celebrate their own successes. So I think that the point of focusing on what's wrong instead of what's right is so ingrained at every level. And the students are coming to school and they're feeling that. They're feeling the tension and the negativity. And the adults are coming to work and they're feeling the tension and the negativity. And even when they do good things and the things are working, it is so hard for them to lean into that. So that's what I want to contribute for now. And I'm happy to pass it back.
Can I just quickly add to that? You asked for a quick feedback. For the past 2 days, I've been working, because my main focus is on conflict and violence in order to manifestations using POSED. And I've spent the past 2 days working and planning courses with young people in Israel. Really remarkable young people. They're a school and a kibbutz whereby they are both Palestinian and Israeli children, young people. And I'll put a link into this chat for Sustainable Ed. And we're planning workshops on positive education and peace over the next few months and years in Ireland and in Italy. And ultimately we will end in the US, because the IB, you probably know, the International Baccalaureate, is a peace education curriculum originally. It was set up after the World War to look at, and it's re-sparking and re-innovating the work in America. And we've done the planning, but as we finished, we asked the students, the young students, did they have any feedback on the process and checking out? And they said they really wanted to thank us as old people. It's back to the legacy. I mean, my God. And I said a bit rude. I said, as an older people, we recognize that the past 2 days you have given us your time and you've shared with us. And we thought, and this broke my heart, and this comes to the point and said, we thought it was down to us. Because when we look at the adults in our world, our political leaders, our educational leaders, they're not fighting for us, they're fighting for them. And you have restored our faith in the older generation. And we were just like, it wasn't a dry eye in the house. And I think that is shameful, that we have a whole generation of young people who've had to take on the role of leadership because their elders have abandoned them for their own greed, anger, and stupidity. And I think one of the things that we see very easily in POSED, like the check-in, the check-up, the check-out, the peace circles, these are very simple processes that you don't need to have a master's in some qualification. You just need to create the space. But while so long as our young people are surrounded and seeing in the world, the role of immature, narcissistic violence, they need to have spaces where they come together with other generations. And Marge and I are going to be talking about this in our chat later on in the year. Do sign up for that. And I'd just be interested in where you, as leaders in your communities, feel how you feel and what we are doing to get the voices of the young people to be heard by the older generation.
Well, I could just jump in for a minute to say that we've layered on restorative practices this year. So again, that might be peace circles or whatever language people are using. But what I find is so many of these programs are essentially teaching the same values with slightly different approaches, and that is really reinforcing, right? Sometimes people might say, oh, that's too much, you're introducing too much, but actually different teachers at different times perhaps are sparked by a different experience. And in the training that we just ran on Monday, I had a group of 10 leaders who all became restorative justice or restorative practice leaders over in December. And so it was our second time leading this session. And we just got our survey results today, and all of the teachers felt that practicing sort of scenario-based conversations with each other of like how they would elicit feedback from students, how they would sit with the feedback from students, how they would address a difficult situation in the moment, was the most effective part of our practice. And the energy in the room was palpable. Yeah, so I guess that's one thing I'll add, but I'd like to hear from other voices as well.
I love the topic of voice. And I think what I am compelled to add is, in order for students to have voice, they have to know who they are, what their identity is, what their purpose is, what their meaning is. Not all of it figured out indefinitely in the moment, but they have to have an understanding of who they are as a person, why they believe the things they believe. They have to understand how bias works, how that's factoring in. There are all these really deep thinking pieces that come with having a voice and being responsible with that. And they also need to learn how to actively listen, which is a skill that is very much in need to be developed with the students I'm working with. They have to learn about moral courage, which I learned about at Ridley and will never forget, impacted me and will impact me forever. I use that with my graduate students all the time. And I think all of these principles and practices help a student develop their voice, but if they're not happening simultaneously and we're not asking students about what they think and why they think, and we're not giving them people to network with that can broaden their thinking, they're missed opportunities, I guess. And I don't think personally we do that enough of that in schools. I know at Sage we're very dedicated and determined to make those principles happen across all curriculums and all coursework. But it's a big lift. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of dedication. And somebody asked about like, how did you get your administration to bite? Well, I mean, the short answer is, and there's a longer answer, but the short answer is I am relentless. I am like a dog with a big meaty bone in their mouth. And when I get something in my head, I am going to prove that there's a benefit to it and there's a need for it. And I'm not going to stop until I do the work I'm meant to do. And so I think determination, surrounding myself with the right people who could really advocate more deeply and meaningful than I could initially, and maybe even can now, I think that was important, but I think making the connections for leadership, like this is how this works, is the short answer. This is how this connects to what we're doing or what we're advocating for. Here's the benefit, here's the research. And it just never went away. Any chance I got, it became the joke. I was going to talk about positive psychology, positive education, teacher training, and how we have different learners and we have to meet them where they are, and they're no longer we can no longer prioritize the things we prioritized for hundreds of years in schools. We have to teach the whole child. So that is a long answer, kind of, but a short answer to your question.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Kelly. So I'm mindful of the fact that we only have a few minutes left in our time together. This conversation has flown, and I'm so grateful that you all showed up. Again, this is the first of 6. So an amazing beginning to our dialogue. Very happy that Hannah is here because Hannah is going to be and leading our next conversation. I'll be facilitating. I guess I'll be facilitating. Hannah will be showing up with some Ridley College students, and we'll be talking about what lights students up, helping young people connect more meaningfully to their academic journey. And we'll be learning, hearing voices directly from the students themselves and having, again, some open conversation about what that looks like, where Ridley can do an even deeper dive into how they're embracing positive education. And then the party goes on because that's our second conversation. We will have another 4 after that. We're going to have a total of 6 conversations that will be interspersed, sprinkled between now and early August. And the intention broadly is that the Positive Education Consortium, recognizes and is so excited about IPEN, revitalizing with Dana being on board. And, we're in this place of just like, let's lean in, let's get conversation going, let's start sparking different ways that, we can broaden our reach, get people, talking about how we can make pos ed more accessible, more scalable, bringing it into schools that maybe haven't really embraced it yet. What does that look like? These are the things that we're looking to embrace, and we're just starting. We're really excited that you took part in this first conversation. So as we wrap up our time together, Amelia, Kelly, Sandy, if you'd like to chime in with any closing thoughts, and as we wrap up our time.
I would love to because I absolutely have to pop if I could catch a bus. So I'll just chime in to say, like, we know how to do this. We have the science, we have the tools. We're not navigating something that's a mystery around the how. We just need to turn on our inner Kelly Smith that has that fire and that dog with a bone energy, and just keep asking how. If the administration's not willing to do it, talk to the parents and make the parents rally together to demand this. Because anything that is illegal today was once legal, and it takes people to make change because that's the only time change has happened. So I guess I just want to leave it at, we know how to do this. The science has told us how. Now we just have to do it. Thank you guys so much for all being here. Thank you for holding this conversation, Laura and Sandy.
Can we adopt the hashtag Be More Kelly? Just putting it out there. Hashtag Be More Kelly. Just.
Oh, I love it.
Well,
Kelly could be our
Alexa
mascot.
is not a fan, that's for sure.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I would just like to add very quickly that I did do some professional development with teachers in this area. And my experience in introducing some of these topics and these skills and practices is that a lot of teachers come back with, oh my gosh, I've been doing this. I didn't know it was a thing. And that includes some of the professors at Russell Sage that I worked with last fall. So there are teachers out there that will connect with it. They know, they get it. So like Kelly, don't give up. Keep pushing forward.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, what a wonderful message to end on. Let's be dogged. Let's be more like Kelly. Sandy, thanks for that story. And thank you again for spending time with us. I know we know that your time is precious, and we're really grateful that you joined in. Our next conversation is going to be on April 8th. It'll be at 2 o'clock, a little bit easier for our UK friends. Hopefully, it'll suit your schedule as well. So please put a hold in your calendar to join us on April 8th, Wednesday at 2 o'clock East Coast time. And we'll continue the conversation with Dr. Hannah Kidd and Ridley College, talking about, again, what lights students up, how we can inspire students to feel greater connection to their academic journey. So with that, thank you to all, and we will follow up with more information about our series, and we'll look forward to you joining us on a future call.
Right, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everyone.
much. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much.